Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back after the coffee break. I'm sure there is quite a few people still out in the corridors. And now we have come to the real super pollutant hero session of the day. It has been gearing up to this moment. Today, and now what we will be doing is we will recognize some of the really important contributions to climate and clean air, working on super pollutants, but also working on real practical knowledge, science, innovation, technology. And the way that we have been going with this Climate and Clean Air Award, it started last year. This is the second round. We have had an open call for nominations, and it has the main purpose of this exercise has been to harness real leadership and also to create champions that can continue promoting this subject based on real experience. We have the benefit of having a few of the awardees from last year in the room, California being one of them, with Senator Lara, the superhero and the super pollutant hero. We have Marcelo Mena in the room. We have other people in the room. ICCT, the International Council for Clean Transportation, last year got the award for transformative action. With somebody today referred to the Dieselgate operations. So there are things that transform. There are solutions on the ground that can be scaled up. There are work to enable policy to happen. And these are the type of nominations we have received. We received 85 nominations this year. And out of these, 25 were screened as longlisted for fulfilling all the criteria of transformation, enabling environment, knowledge, and application and replication. And out of these, we had a very distinguished jury who helped us. We will thank them at the very end of this session. So with no further delay, because I think that our panels this morning preceding this, it's not, well, it's morning in some places of the world. It has been in the afternoon here. But I think it's the morning actually in Fiji, and I have the great pleasure to start by having a real champion, our climate champion, the Honorable Minister Inia Serui Ratu. He's Fiji's Minister for Agriculture, Rural and Maritime Development and National Disaster Management, and he's also the Minister for Meteorology of Fiji. And most importantly here today, he is the Global Climate Champion, and he was also presiding over the COP23 last year. And he will bring us also to the dialogues that is happening now in the climate negotiation, Talanoa, where it's all about bringing action to the forefront, sitting at the table and sharing experience that can enable better ambition and increased caution when it comes to temperature. And we have already discussed this morning. So with us now is Fiji's global champion, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Lena. Excellencies, ministers, ladies and gentlemen, Nisam Bulavinaka, shall I say good morning or good afternoon or good evening to you all. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to celebrate with you the commendable efforts and achievements of a wide range of stakeholders and practitioners who are working towards reducing short-lived climate pollutants that are impacting our food security and adversely disturbing our climate systems. Friends, we know that science has shown that emissions of short-lived climate pollutants such as black carbon or soot, methane, and some hydrofluorocarbons are a serious threat to human well-being. Scaling up action on short-lived climate pollutants can avoid between 0.4 to 0.5 degrees Celsius of predicted warming by 2050. This will, of course, result in wide-ranging benefits, including to our health and our ecosystems and land use systems. Acting now can prevent up to 2.5 million premature deaths each year and save more than 50 million tons of food crops annually. This is an opportunity we cannot miss. We need to make radical changes in the way we conduct our everyday activities and business. This should take place across all sectors and at all levels, from individuals to companies to national governments. This is necessary to shift us towards the pathway that will take us to a net zero emission world as soon as possible, and preferably before the mid-century. We need to work together towards policies that are consistent with ambitious action on climate and enable business-led solutions to scale up and speed up the implementation of the Paris Agreement. We should strengthen trends and forces towards achieving the collective long-term goal. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the message of the Fijian presidency has always been very clear on the need to achieve the highest level of ambition, which is keeping temperature increase to within 1.5 degrees Celsius. This is vital for the survival of our small island communities and for other vulnerable regions around the world. We should take all efforts to supplement the alarming temperature trajectory that we are currently on. The initiatives and actions taken and supported by the Climate and Clean Air Coalition is a significant contributor to such efforts. I therefore would like to thank all of you who have been actively engaging in the coalition for your contributions towards achieving a net zero emissions society. Ladies and gentlemen, since COP21, the Marrakesh Partnership for Global Climate Action have been working very actively to build the institutional support to bring together actors from key sectors who are implementing important global initiatives. The partnership aims to bring together a diverse set of stakeholders to exchange experiences, knowledge, and ideas, and to learn and better understand one another. Solutions exist now, they have been tested and proven, and they are ready to be implemented. They are cost-effective and enhance economic opportunities in critical sectors, such as agriculture and in the public sector policy, services, and infrastructure. The recipients of these awards exemplify what action looks like. They are fast action heroes. They are putting solutions in place through individual efforts, policy, and innovation. And these are clear examples of what is needed in the climate action arena. My warmest congratulations to all of you, and I urge you to share your experiences and innovative approaches and ideas far and wide. It is important that while we are all busy working towards the same goal to enhance climate action, we also take the time to share and learn from each other's experiences and develop partnerships wherever possible. I would like to extend my congratulations to the Secretariat of the Climate and Clean Air Coalition and other co-organizers of this awards event. Events like this are an important vehicle for sharing your achievements and messages with other stakeholders and across to other sectors. Your messages can amplify the urgent call for increased ambition. Your achievements and success stories can inspire others to take the important steps needed to urgently accelerate climate action. My congratulations once again to the recipients of tonight's awards, and I wish you all an enjoyable evening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So this is the voice from the small island developing states, the champion for climate action in the UN FCCC, and for all of us. So it's a good call for action, Mr. Honorable Minister. So now we will move into the awards ceremony. We want to encourage all of us to learn from the experiences, and most importantly, to continue engaging with these champions. And as an example of this, I would like to invite one of the winners of last year's award and, as I said, the super pollutant champion that we already heard so much about in the previous session, Senator Lara. Please join me at the podium. The first categories that will be receiving this award is for individual achievements in the field of transformative science and knowledge, the underpinning area of what we're doing here today. Over to you, Senator Lara.
Thank you. What an honor to be here. Oh. I'm sorry. Are you? She's good. She's good. She's good. She's good. She'll always get up. That's right. Thank you. It's such an honor as a past recipient to be here to honor two extraordinary men that have done so much, not only in the world of science, but in the world of health. And we know that if our environmental movement is going to survive, especially in the United States, it has to be led by people who often come from communities that are disproportionately impacted by climate change and our policies. And there's one thing to be a scientist and be a leader in your field. The other thing is to help navigate the politics to get a lot of the research that and work they have done implemented as actionable items that impact the quality of life of every single person on this planet. And both individuals have done this as well. And, you know, those of us in this current climate in our country that come from immigrant backgrounds, these two individuals demonstrate that immigrants absolutely get the job done. And so, and today we honor individuals who, again, have successfully connected the need for environmental policies and health, which is not always the case. And in the case of our first honoree, who is one of my personal heroes, really through his research demonstrated that the conversation needed to shift directly to health impacts. You know, it's important for us to talk about the need to keep the globe from warming 2 degrees Celsius. But again, as I mentioned before, to anybody walking in the street, what does that mean? Especially here in California, where we can have 60 degrees in San Francisco and 80 degrees in Sacramento or LA. And understanding the importance of connecting that is vital. Dr. V. Ramanathan, for his contributions to science and our understanding of super pollutants, his work has been fundamental to the way we understand and address climate change. Professor Ramanathan's scientific discoveries are shaping environmental policy and contributing to the well-being of humanity. From his work on air pollution with Climate and Clean Air, the Climate Clean Air Coalition, to his nonprofit Clean Cook Stove projects with NextLeaf, to his groundbreaking climate change efforts as part of the Montreal Protocol, Professor Ramanathan is outlining critical pathways to keep global temperature changes well below 2 degrees Celsius and the safest temperature boundary from the Paris Climate Agreement. Professor Ramanathan's work shows that reducing super pollutants is a clear way to provide significant near-term relief from increasing warming. It was such an honor for me to have him as my guest as we signed, as our governor signed our Super Pollutant Reduction Act and utilized all his work to justify why California needed to lead. And you know, I went to San Diego State. I forgive him for being at UCSD, but it's okay because what he's doing is tremendous. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, our first winner, Professor V. Ramanathan.
Take a picture.
Perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's just an unbelievable honor for me, particularly to receive it from Senator Lara, who authored this super pollutant bill called SB 1383, and it was passed, and he was generous enough to invite me, along with Governor Jerry Brown, in the signing of this agreement. So this award given by United Nations Environment Agency formed this Climate and Clean Air Coalition. I should recognize former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who was also principally responsible for this coalition. So it is such an honor for me to receive it from CCAC, Climate and Clean Air Coalition, because of its efforts to cut down the rate of planetary warming by half before 2050. So that is what we are talking about in terms of super pollutants. The new science of weather extremes and its documented public health impacts has significantly elevated the importance of using super pollutant mitigation to bend the warming curve by almost by 0.6 of a degree within 25 years. It is a race against time, but we can win this race since scalable solutions are available with numerous living laboratories implementing them. And equally importantly, we have the superwoman in Helena, leader of CCAC. To lead CCAC, I'm not saying this in a light-hearted manner. I will tell you what she has done soon. But first, in 1980, I teamed up with Roland Madden and predicted that the carbon dioxide warming would be detected by the year 2000, which was verified by IPCC. I'm not just citing mine, just to show example, numerous other predictions by climate scientists made in the last 30 years have all been verified. It's a sad thing for us. These successes provide the confidence for future predictions. So just let me give you two. In about 10 years, the planetary warming will exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius. And if emissions continue unchecked, the warming will exceed 2 degrees just in 30 years. A 2-degree warmer world, when compared with a 1.5-degree world, can have significant effects on our health, both rich and poor. Nearly 1.7 billion additional people could be exposed to severe heat waves. Number of people exposed to droughts would increase by 1/3, almost 300 million, and so on and so forth. So clearly, limiting the warming to 1.5 degrees instead of 2 degrees should be a top priority for protecting public health. We are not talking about millions. We are not even talking about 100 millions. We are talking in terms of billion. So for the near term, how do we do that? Drastic mitigation of superpollutants is the only cost-effective way, as well as a practical way, to limit the warming to about 1.5. We can do it. The targeted superpollutants are methane, black carbon, tropospheric ozone, and HFCs. There are some exciting news about HFCs. I'm sure Dr. Durwood Zalke will talk to us about it. CCAC. Now, I'm coming to why Helena is my nomination for a superwoman to destroy superpollutants. Under her leadership, she has recruited 130 partners, including cities, states, nations, financial institutions, other NGOs. They have developed numerous scalable measures to cut the rate of warming from now until 2050 by half. If we can accomplish that, I have no doubt we can accomplish that, close to 2 billion people, rich and poor, will be grateful to CCAC and to all of us here. And if we can all join and help CCAC. I particularly call on India and China to join this coalition. We will just change the world immediately. But we shouldn't forget the longer-term warming. To keep the longer-term warming below 2 degrees, we have to follow living laboratories like California. Make the planet carbon neutral by 2050. California is going to do it for its energy by 2045, thanks to our Governor Jerry Brown and Senator Kevin DeLeon. We also have to take out close to 500 billion to 1 trillion tons of carbon dioxide from the air. Okay? And again, we have to develop technologies. None of them are what I would put in the impossible category. They are all possible, plausible, and we have the brain power to do that. So I want to thank my collaborators in this, Professor Maria Molina, David Victor, Durwood Zalke, in terms of crafting policy options. I also want to thank my daughters Nitya and Tara, who are working with me in cutting down black carbon emissions from cooking in India and parts of Africa. Finally, my thanks go to University of California and University of California, San Diego, for nurturing my work last 28 years. And just as an example, the head of Scripps Institute of Oceanography, Margaret Leinen, our Vice Chancellor for Research, Sandy Brown, and the legendary Walter Monk, they're all here. Thank you.
Thank you again, and congratulations, Professor. Our next honoree, Dr. Mario Molina. I mean, my God, where do we begin with this compadre? He is an amazing, amazing individual. His historic research on climate and atmospheric science has received the highest accolades available to science. He has been an internationally known scientist for decades, laying the scientific foundation for the creation of the Montreal Protocol. I mean, come on. I mean, for us geeks, this is like everything. Dr. Molina's impact did not just stop here, of course, or there. Not only has he won the Nobel Peace Prize in Chemistry, I mean, let's give him a round of applause for that tremendous accomplishment. He's absolutely continuing to contribute to the international policy, including the Kigali Amendment to phase out those darn HFCs. His work on the Kigali Amendment was critical for the mitigating super pollutants, providing reductions equivalent to 100 billion tons of carbon dioxide by 2050 and avoid up to 0.5 degrees Celsius of warming by the end of the century. From his duties of energy and the environment at the Mario Molina Center in Mexico to the groundbreaking climate change efforts as part of the Montreal Protocol, Dr. Molina has helped outline critical pathways for which today hold the key to maintaining global temperature change of well below 2 degrees Celsius, the safest temperature boundary from the Paris Climate Agreement, as we all know. I had the pleasure of honoring Dr. Molina with an award from the California Air Resources Board, which I sit on earlier this year. He is a tremendous, tremendous individual. Dr. Molina's scientific discoveries have contributed to the well-being of all humanity by shaping national environmental policies around the world and here in his home in California. Please, without any further ado, Dr. Molina, please come forward.
Well, thank you very, very much. I'm indeed very honored by receiving this recognition. I don't even know what more to say, but it is indeed a great honor. I want to make a remark related to sort of our state of mind. Are we optimistic or pessimistic? I'm indeed optimistic because we have the Paris Agreement. The entire world came together and they agreed that we should do something about climate change. But I could be quite pessimistic as well. Just think of what's happening here in the United States, the White House and so on. So I've been over the years thinking, how can we get the scientific community together to really convey a message to society, not just about the science itself that is now so clear, as you have heard many times today already, but about what it means if we don't take this threat of climate change very seriously. And one way in which we scientists sort of agree that maybe we haven't communicated this to the public as clearly as we should. One way to do that is to talk about what might happen, say, towards the end of the century, if we continue with business as usual, which is what perhaps the White House here in the United States would expect to happen. And one way to do it is to talk about the most likely average temperature change that the planet would have on the Earth's surface, which might be 3, perhaps 4 degrees, but we thought, no, it's even more important to talk about risk, probabilities. And what the key message we really want to communicate, this was a number of years ago. Look, there is something like a 1 in 10 probabilities that the average temperature could go up more than 3 or 4 degrees, perhaps even 5 degrees. If the average temperature of the planet were to increase 5 degrees, it would be disastrous. There would be many places on the planet that would be uninhabitable. Just look at the number of immigrants. We talk about health effects, how many people would not survive such high temperatures. Well, it turns out we were underestimating the risk a bit, because as we have seen in recent years, we're talking not about 1 in 10, but perhaps 1 in 5. 1 in 4 as a probability of having such tremendous disasters for future generations, okay? And that, to us, no longer talking about as scientists, but just as people, talking about values, that's highly irresponsible. Just think about future generations. How can we leave something like that for future generations, for our children or grandchildren, such a planet? It's just unthinkable to have such an extraordinary degree of irresponsibility. And that's why we can be pessimistic, because that seems to be the official position of the United States government. But I'm actually optimistic, not because of that, but because we see other things happening. California that would be the 5th or 6th largest economy in the planet if it were a country by itself. And look what California is doing. The emissions are no longer increasing, and so on and so forth. I don't have to give you all the details, but we just saw the SB 100, all that is being done by Governor Brown and by all the residents in California. So it can be done. So if you look at the United States internationally from outside, you see, well, we have to see what can be done. And it's just not California. Other states are doing something similar. Okay? So it can be done. And it's not just states, it's many cities. The mayors of many cities, as you know, are collaborating. But even more so, the private sector, many industries are collaborating and doing that. So we know it can certainly be done. It can be done, as Thurwood Selke already pointed out in the morning, and we have done it already once with the Montreal Protocol. all the countries in the planet got together and essentially solved the stratospheric ozone problem. So what it takes is collaboration, it takes understanding, it takes not just science, but it takes responsibility, believe what might happen to future generations. But we have to work together. It's this collaboration that is crucial. And so let me just end and finish by thank you all for keeping up this collaboration alive. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. Thank you, Senator Lara. Don't run away. No, I'll be right now. Okay. So I want to also acknowledge my boss walking into the room right now, Erik Solheim, the Executive Director of UN Environment. Welcome. We have a room full of dignitaries and ministers and heads of important organizations and real people as well, many people. And as has been said, collaboration is key. It's also courage is key. It's not so easy, as we heard from some of the politicians before, to actually introduce change, and the private sector talking to us earlier about getting together and doing things beyond regulations. So may I now introduce our next champion that will introduce next award for us. As you know, we collaborate a lot with the World Health Organization. This is a health issue, we said. It's not only a climate issue. And Dr. Maria Neira, my good friend and colleague, please join me up here. The next category is about raising awareness at scale. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you, Elena, and hello, all the super pollutant heroes. Dr. Ramanathan and Dr. Molina were already my heroes. I didn't know that now I'm supposed to call them my super pollutant heroes. People might think that this is not respectful, but you have definitely all of our respect for reaching such a level of pollution among all of us and contaminating us on the way you have been doing. So I hope that we will keep contaminating people on this very exciting battle. Elena, let me congratulate you as well on something that is not easy to do, and you have done it, which is moving from calling something that is short-lived climate pollutants, so something impossible to explain people what it is, to call it super pollutants. I think it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, so thank you, California. Thanks the communication guys who have been working behind. I go back to the World Health Organization, where from now on, I think I will call my old department the fighters of super pollutants, because this is what we are doing every day. It's clear that all of you, on a way or another, some more than others, are ministers of health. I mean, you are contributing to reduce diseases on a small number or on a big one, but whatever you are doing to fight those pollutants is helping us on our big public health battle. So I thank you very much for us, and you are definitely our big, big heroes. But today, I'm now responsible for giving this award, and this is a kind of Oscar ceremony. I feel very impressed by that, particularly when you will hear the music. Da, 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 da. That's very exciting. So this year, the 2018 Climate and Clean Award for Individual Achievement goes to Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation. And I'm very happy to be able to give this award, because it's all about advocacy. It's about convincing people. It's about shaking a little bit outside the way people is thinking and the way people is engaging. It's clear that for the last 2 decades, the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation has been doing a lot, and even movies and documentaries. I'm sure you all remember the 11-hour or the Before the Flood, or the flood, and many others that he has been doing to promote and making sure that this keep contaminating all of us, passing this optimism, which is very contagious as well. And I hope that we will be able to pass part of this optimism to the people who is a little bit paralyzed or doing things that are not on the right direction. So they have awarded more than $80 million, and I hope that they will be doing even more. Unfortunately, Leo, I call him Leo, he just sent me a message saying that he cannot join us. He has my telephone number. He doesn't. But anyway, I'm very, very pleased to give this award on his name to the CEO of the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, which is Mr. Terry Taminen, and I call him on the stage. Where is Terry?
Those two? All right. Thank you very much.
How many hands do you have?
Yep. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Very nicely done. Well, if he didn't have your phone number before, he'll have it tonight. Thank you so much, Maria. That's really wonderful. And your sense of optimism and taking this back to the World Health Organization, which is going to be and is one of the most important organizations on the planet for this fight, because we do have to tie this to health, as we've talked about before. And I want to thank once again not only the coalition for this wonderful award on Leo's behalf. Unfortunately, he's making a film in Los Angeles at the moment and couldn't come up here tonight. He was originally supposed to even speak this week at the Climate Summit, but unfortunately his day job intervened. So he asked me to say thank you so much for this very prestigious and thoughtful award. And he would, if he were here, he would say to you, you know, he's often quoted Winston Churchill, who says that Americans always do the right thing, but only after trying everything else first. And so it is with the world when it comes to climate change solutions. We've recognized this problem for a long time, and thanks to some of the stellar work of our scientists that have been here receiving awards tonight and so many others, we know what the problem is. We know what the solutions are. But as that one documentary that Maria mentioned, the 11th Hour Project, amply demonstrates, we know that we've waited too long. And there's just no excuse any longer. And we have to hold our elected officials accountable. This is one of the things, again, that Leo often talks about. And I would recommend to anybody who still has any doubts, and look, there are still some people who think we have more time. Let's set aside the denial industry that is bought and paid for by the fossil fuel industry and their handmaidens in Congress. That's a whole different category and a different issue. If you've read Dark Money by Jane Mayer, if you haven't, you should. You'll understand how and why all of that has happened and continues to in the Trump administration. But more importantly, for people who are persuadable to get them to get off the couch and take action, suggest that they watch Inconvenient Truth, Al Gore's documentary from 12, 13 years ago, and Before the Flood, Leo's from 2 years ago. They're perfect bookends because Al, in his documentary, lays out what the science knew then and what all the projections were. Lots of charts and graphs and all the projections. Leo goes out into the field and shows you that everything Al was warning us about is happening, and it's happening even faster. So if you just ask people to take a couple of hours and watch those two documentaries bookended, because they're a dozen years apart, I think you will get some converts. And we've got to get people off the couch. We've got to get people understanding that every little bit hurts if they're driving their living room on wheels to the supermarket to get a quart of milk, that they could take a bike. They could, obviously be doing things to contribute to the solution instead of the problem, that every little bit helps, every little thing we do, every light bulb we change, every light we turn off, even shorter showers, because water, especially in this state, takes a lot of energy to produce and move and clean. Every little bit helps. And that's, again, where Leo has tried to use his brand and wants to do more with all of you to figure out how to reach the next generation in particular. Hopefully they won't hold it against us, as they probably should, for getting them into this mess. But he, too, is optimistic, despite the fact that we know we've waited too long. He, too, is optimistic that we can solve this problem if we work together. So I'm going to apologize because I've got to go to another speaking engagement. I don't want to be rude to my other co-honorees and to the coalition. I want to thank you again so much on his behalf. And I look forward to seeing you all throughout the rest of this week, and again, jumping deep into the solutions, because we don't have a moment to lose. Thank you so much.
Another superhero, super pollutant hero. Now I would like to call upon another superhero from Kenya. It's Alice Kaudia. She's our co-chair of the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, former Secretary of Environment of Kenya. And she will take us through one of the innovation and community-based economic challenges. Over to you, Alice.
Thank you, Helena. Good evening. Oh, am I alone? Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I think this is a very exciting event, and for me, having traveled all the way from Kenya to here, it's serious business. I'm so happy that it's late in the evening and you are all still seated here, very patiently sharing the knowledge. I will start briefly by just sharing with you. Yes, as Helena has introduced me, I'm the former Secretary of Environment for Kenya. That's the position I held for the last 9 years. I was the first one, so that means I'm very innovative in terms of making systems work. Yes, I've left behind me loads of policies and laws relating to waste management, the bit that I'm going to handle this evening. I think, in my view, women are the global super behavioral changers. They shape the behavior of the globe. Why? Invariably, I've heard even grown-ups like me, when the critical issue comes to be, they'll say, and you say, why did you make this mistake? No, it's not my mistake. It's my mom's. That's how she taught me. Don't we say that? That means that if we have to continue having these super pollutant heroes, we also need to make a critical focus on the role of women in the waste management value chain. And that is because it starts from the house. It doesn't matter if you're a CEO of an industry, because we are told our personality is a combination of our socialization and the environment in which we have grown, right? And therefore it means that if at the household level, the mothers were telling the infants and the children and the teenagers and then the grown-ups as they come up that this is how you manage your waste, then yes, we'd be having less waste into the environment, and therefore would be having a cleaner and a safe environment. Let me just share with you what Kenya has done. Kenya has been moving forward in her best way possible to ensure that we have less waste, and whereas at the moment we only have dump sites. We don't have big industries like the one I've seen in many countries, even when we were in Chile. We have super system there for municipal solid waste. We don't have that, but with support from CCSC, Kenya has developed a waste management strategy, an integrated waste management strategy, and we are working towards having our waste management policy and law in place. You will recall globally, you have seen this in the news, that Kenya banned the use of single-use carrier plastic bags. When you're in the plane, when you're landing, the airline will honorably announce that carrier plastic bags are outlawed in Kenya. So to be on the safe side, not to pay the $15,000 to $39,000 fine, you have to leave the plastic in the plane and walk free into our country. But we are very welcoming and loving people, so you're all welcome. I think we have done that tremendous work, and we find that it's important because in our constitution, a clean and a healthy environment is a constitutional right to every person living in Kenya, and therefore to go towards that, we need to ensure that we have a clean and a safe environment. So I'm so delighted that Helena and the organizers deemed it fit that I am the one who should give this award to the winner of this category of innovation. Now, innovation takes a team to come to being. And therefore, you will find that this is the first segment of this evening when we'll have many more people joining us up in the stage here. Waste is a significant source of short-lived climate pollutants, or what we are now calling the super pollutants, thanks to the innovation by California. And as the third largest man-made source of these pollutants, methane waste contributes to climate change and ozone pollution. Open burning of waste and use of polluting collection vehicles, as I see mainly in Kenya, you know, as they are driving away, they spew out black carbon in large quantities, almost measurable to the volume of waste they are carrying. This is very, very sad, and therefore the black carbon issue, we need to control it. The do I pronounce well? How do you pronounce P? Pune. Pune. Great, great. In my country, we say English came in a ship, so we don't understand it very well. But the Pune is one of the few cities in India working to treat all the waste it generates. To help achieve this, the city has come up with an innovative strategy. It has placed a group of marginalized women at the forefront of campaign to clean the city. More than 3,000 women workers provide door-to-door waste collection services to over 600,000 homes in the city, recycling more than 50,000 tons of waste every year. Those women deserve what? A clap. We honor those women of Pune city. The environmental impacts are significant. The city estimates that it avoids the release of over 130,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent into atmosphere each year, and 29,000 tons of CO2 equivalent are also avoided through anaerobic digestion. The municipal policy and implementation shows how climate mitigation can generate economic opportunities for informal sector workers that are highly replicable in other cities. I think we can emulate their example. I therefore call on the Honorable Mayor of Pune, Mrs. Mukta Tilak, and Mr. Shiranal B. Manel, Honorable Leader of House, Pune Municipal Corporation, Honorable Chairman, Standing Committee, and Mr. Yogesh Mulik, and Mr. Suresh Jagtap, the Municipal Commissioner, the Department of Solid Waste. Please welcome. I carry this.
Yes, we give it to the mayor. For that? Yes, we give it for that.
Please move forward. It's your honor. Honorable Mayor will just give us some remarks.
Thank you, everybody. And we especially thank United Nations Environment Program and Climate and Clean Air Coalition for recognizing the efforts of our corporation and selected for the award. Now, let me tell you more about our corporation. Pune is among the top 7 cities in India, and it is the second largest city in Maharashtra, the state of Maharashtra. It is located near Mumbai. Maybe everybody is knowing Mumbai. So it is a metropolitan city and covering about 333 square meters of land. and with 5 million population. So the total waste generated every day is about 2,000 metric tons. And out of it, 50% is organic waste and 50%, of course, inorganic waste. So when the waste was created and there was a problem in handling the waste, then we took some sustainable efforts to address this issue. And since 2010, the city has stopped all forms of open dumping and of solid waste, and we are always responsible for scientific collection, processing, segregation, everything. The innovative steps which we have taken, that is to reduce black carbon and methane emissions from this waste and to help improving air quality. So, as she has said that there is an agreement with a cooperative called Swachh. Swachh in our language is cleanliness. So that is the idea behind it, and there are about 3,000 women workers who go to each and every household, and they collect, they give door-to-door service, and they collect the waste from about 600,000 households, and they are recycling more than 50,000 tons of waste per year. The waste pickers, when she collects the wastes, she separates inorganic waste into recyclables, papers, plastic and all that, and sells the scrap to scrap dealers for further recycling. And this organic waste is sent for composting and biogas plants. The city has decentralized biomethanization plants for processing and composting of organic waste. So community-based composting is also activated, and we are promoting it. And that has impacted on a micro level in reducing carbon footprints. Till today, there are about 25 such type of decentralized biogas projects, each of 5 tons, so that the waste generated is not going to landfill sites, which is a scientific landfill site in the area, and this is also creating lesser transport systems. Now, citizens' participation is also there. We raise more and more awareness. Since 2000, we have run citywide grassroots level campaigns, and this has given us very good results. As a result, the total GHG emission, that means potential savings via material and energy recovery and avoided organic waste handling, is about 2 billion kgs per month. And so these efforts have also resulted into significant reduction in short-lived climate pollutants such as black carbon, methane emission, released due to open burning of waste. Open burning of waste was very peculiar and popular in the fringe areas of the city. And so these efforts and actions taken by PMC has also provided additional economical sustainability to these women, also benefited for the health of the society. We can have good ecosystems and the sustainable goals. The Pune Municipal Corporation is committed to continue this journey, and also this is our torchbearer is always Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is always there for Clean India movement. Thank you.
Thank you so much to these champions. May I just now call upon our next deliverer of award. It's a well-known champion for climate action, Manuel Pulgar Vidal from Worldwide WWF now, former minister of Peru and former president of COPS. Over to you. 2 awards on the same topic.
Thank you, Elena. Yeah, sure. Okay. Thank you, Elena. And less than 3 years ago, we got the Paris Agreement. And it was possible because we had developed some key factors that made it possible. So the role of science, the engagement of non-state actors, strong financial pledges, the build of confidence through the NDCs, among some other factors. But the current time, it is completely different because we should implement the Paris Agreement and we should keep momentum. And what does it mean to implement? Mostly means that we do need to ground our actions domestically. We have gotten a strong objective globally, but there are no way to keep the promise of Paris if we are not able to ground it domestically. Also, what we do need it is to develop sectorial roadmaps, strongly based on science. It is a key element to secure and to assure that we can keep the promise of Paris. But we do need, on the other hand, to incentivize. And to incentivize means to send strong signals to the different actors. It could be by using economic instruments. There are many countries that are working in carbon pricing and those kind of discussion. But it could be about policies, because policies can guide people for a behavioral change. And this is about these 2 awards that I am going to announce, about policies and how much a transformative policies can really change the behavior of the people. I am really happy that in the first case, we are talking about a big player, a big actor, because we do need to have all the actors well engaged in this endeavor. So we are talking about China, that it is a key actor in the climate debate and a key actor if we think of the strong implementation of the Paris Agreement. But it is not just about China. It is China working together in a multi-stakeholder approach, that it is a key element because it is not just about the national government. It is about research, it is about foundations, it is about different actors that are seeking for the same. And also it is about how can we start to connect dots. And as Maria has just said to us, it is about to connect climate with health, climate with development. It is the way in which we are going to move not only current action, but also to build a long-term vision. So I am so happy to announce for today the 2018 Climate and Clean Air Award for Transformative Policies that goes to a group of people from government, academia, and non-profit organizations responsible for improving China vehicle emission standards. These actors include the Ministry of Ecology and Environment China, the Vehicle Emission Control Center of the same ministry, the Energy Foundation China, the International Council for Clean Transportation, and the Tsinghua University. So let me invite to receive this important award for transformative policy for the China diesel emission standards to Gong Huiming, He Hui, and He Kebing, Professor and Dean for the School of the Environment, to receive the award.
Thank you. We are extremely honored to receive this award. So actually, this work is a long-term and teamwork. So today we talk about China 6 emission standards, but actually it takes over more than 20 years. So for the last 20 years, the Chinese government agency, academic institution, and NGOs, and many international experts working together to form the long-term working team and to advance Chinese vehicle emission standards. Actually, from China 1 to China 6, we have done a lot of work. So I think through this working team, it's very important for us, we can get the special combination of the political wings and the scientific and technical solutions, and which is very important to remove all of the barriers that is very essential to remove the barriers for establish a new emission standard. You know, you have to balance all of the participants. So today, I want to say very special thanks to my colleagues and friends from the Chinese Minister of Ecology and Environment, and also the Vehicle Emission Control Center. They are not here, but they have a very unique contribution for this kind of work. Thank you.
Not that yet. I am here to explain the technical part of what we have done. So China is currently the world's largest vehicle market and producer. And many major cities in China suffer from severe air pollution. So recent studies have shown that on-road vehicles actually can contribute to up to 50% of local air pollution in Chinese cities. So now we have a strong policy to address this issue. So the upcoming China 6 emission standard is actually among the world's most ambitious emission standards for heavy diesel vehicles. It is a combination of the best practices from Europe, from the Euro 6 regulation, from the US regulation, the compliance and enforcement programs, and also the China unique innovations. So the standard will help reduce health hazards and smog-forming air pollutants by 60 to 70% compared to what we have today, the stage 5. And it will also, by enforcing a key technology, diesel particle filters, the standard will also help reduce fine particle and black carbon emissions by over 99%, avoiding some 30,000 premature deaths in 2030 alone in China. And of course, black carbon is one of the high global warming pollutants as well. So the standard really paved the way for trucks to transition from the currently very dirty diesel to near zero to zero emission technologies.
Well, I will just present a very simple 2 points. First is what China has achieved really has contributions from many of you today in this room. And so I would like to take this chance to give our appreciation to the continuous collaboration and support from California Air Resources Board, from US EPA, and also would like to give the appreciation to our philanthropic investment from PACES, from ChemWorks, and also from Hewlett Foundations. So with your continuous support in the past 20 years, we are able to work together to get this achievement. So that's the first point I want to make. Second is, this is just the starting point. We still have a lot to do. We need to regulate the off-road sector. We need to reduce the black carbon emissions from vehicles, and we also need to have more stringent enforcement of the standards. So we still need your support and collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations to China. And as we are talking about China, and China is developing this South-South cooperation, we are going to move from the South to the South. And I am more than happy that this award, that it is related to enabling policy, it is from a southern country, a Latin American country, that it is in our neighborhood. And let me use two words that I want to raise to identify this award. Coherence. And why coherence? Because I remember that it was the last year when we gave the award to the former Minister for Environment, Marcelo Mena, because of all these clean air policies in Chile. And again, in this award, we are recognizing Chile, and we are recognizing the city of Santiago and a research center. So in this GCAS, the Global Climate Action Summit, that it is fortunately the first time ever in which a climate action summit, it has been convened by a subnational, we do need to encourage subnational government actions. So it is good to have Chile as a country with national policies and Santiago de Chile as a city that it is moving the agenda forward. So this 2018 Climate and Clean Air Award for Enabling Policy goes to the Centro Mario Molina, Chile, and the Ministry of Transport and Communication, Chile, for their joint effort to implement policies to reduce diesel air pollution. Congratulations. So let me invite, sorry that I didn't mention it, to Yanni Lopez Ramirez, Director from the Centro Mario Molina, Chile, and José Luis Domínguez, Vice Minister for the Ministry of Transportation and Communication, Chile.
So this is from Mario Molina Center.
Dámelo.
Go ahead.
Un poco corto.
Yep. Thank you very much. We are very honored. Thank you to Climate and Clean Air Coalition, and thank you to Professor Molina for his leadership and wisdom. And thank you for the Minister of Transport to doing a lot of efforts in Chile promoting more clean vehicles. I just want to highlight one thing. Today we have 1 billion cars or vehicles in the global fleet. In the year 2050 we will have 3 billion cars. In regions like Latin America, we have mostly the people today running on commuting in public transport. We need to give them the best public transit to keep them inside the buses. And that is the reason behind this process in Santiago de Chile, because we have an air pollution problem for many years and it's improving, but public transport is a key issue there. Now, Santiago is taking a next step. The minimum requirement is Euro 6 for every new bus from last year. But also, as the Vice Minister will tell you, we are taking the step to electrification of the public transport system in Santiago. And the next year, the public transport system of Santiago will have the largest fleet of electric buses outside China. This is so important in a region where the public transport is the main or the backbone of the urban system for transport. And Santiago is, in that sense, a champion for the rest of the region. For example, now São Paulo, that has 15,000 buses, is looking at the experience of Santiago like a way to follow in the coming years. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank, in the name of Santiago of Chile, because this contributes to the path we have been deploying in order to make Santiago a city with clean and efficient public transportation. This is a complex challenge, but we are convinced that it will have many positive impacts in the future. Santiago is a city situated in a valley surrounded by the imposing Andes mountain range, has a geographic position that is one of its most strikingly beautiful virtues. Nevertheless, it's exactly this natural barrier that facilitates pollution because it doesn't allow for an adequate ventilation. During the last 30 years, we have boosted the use of cleaner fuel and the adoption of higher standard of emission for new vehicles. These measures have allowed us to reduce in over 65% the level of PM 2.5 and NOx. However, it was in 2016 when we adopted one of the most transcendent politics to reduce air pollution, the imposition of the Euro 6 emission standard for every bus operating in the transporting system of Santiago. We will not only continue to require the Euro 6 standard of emission, but we will also incorporate fully electric buses. In fact, this year we will realize the arrival of 200 electric buses and also 500 buses that comply with Euro 6 standards. And for the year 2019, we will renew half of the fleet of Santiago buses with a total of 2,500 Euro 6 buses and at least 500 electric buses. That means Santiago will become one of the cities with the highest level of electromobility in public transport. Our fulfill us with pride because in addition to addressing a local problem, we are sure that with this public policy, we are making a considerable contribution in reducing the effects of global warming. In the name of Chilean government, I especially thank the Climate and Clean Air Coalition for the recognition and to those competing in our category for the valuable lesson shared today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we are running over time, so I would, with the flying start, invite Honourable Minister James Shaw from New Zealand, one of the leaders in the agriculture field of methane reductions and also one of the champions of fast action and increased ambition in the climate plan. So please, Minister, Honourable Minister, join me.
Tēnā koutou katoa ngamihinui ki koutou kia ora and good afternoon, good evening. So New Zealand is delighted to support the work of the Climate and Clean Air Coalition and also to be a co-chair of the Agricultural Initiative. Before I announce the award winners, I just wanted to take a moment to talk about the context of food production and climate change and to just give you a little sense of what we're doing. The context is, of course, that the global population is actually expected to grow by an additional 2.3 billion people by the year 2050, the year that we're kind of hoping to get a number of countries to net zero. The resulting increases in food demand mean that we'll have to produce more food in the next 50 years than we have in the last 500 years in total. Right, more food in the next 50 years produced than in the last 500 in total. If food loss and waste was a country, it would be the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases. Right? If food loss and waste was a country by itself, it would be the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases. And as a food-producing country, New Zealand's very focused on sustainable food production. But sustainable food production can seem a little pointless if the world is wasting 1.3 billion tonnes of food every year. So we need to dramatically reduce that. Put simply, we need more global research into the kinds of expertise, including research, development and technology that's needed if we're going to meet that challenge of food production and security. New Zealand's pleased to be a founding member of the Global Research Alliance on Agricultural Greenhouse Gases and a part of the international research collaboration that represents. The 50 member countries of this research alliance are together between us responsible for about 60% of global agricultural emissions. The alliance and many international organisations are working together to find ways to reduce greenhouse gases without compromising food production. New Zealand ourselves have invested about $65 million to support the activities of the Global Research Alliance, and with that investment forming and financing important research collaborations around the world. We are literally measuring the bodily functions of animals, thousands of animals, so it's not pretty, but it is important, and it is worth it. We have been able to identify some breeds of animal that emit lower levels of methane than others. We've screened hundreds of thousands of chemical compounds and isolated a handful that have significant potential to reduce emissions. We're undertaking world-leading research to try to develop a vaccine and feed supplements to reduce methane from livestock. And we've undertaken a global survey of ruminant animals, including sheep and cattle, deer, goats, buffalo, and even giraffes. And this new knowledge gives us some confidence that the technical solutions that we're developing could have global applications. So it feels like we are starting to make some progress, although as a number of other people have said tonight, it is coming a little bit late in the piece, and obviously we can't do it alone. New Zealand is an incredibly efficient producer of food, and we are blessed with some of the best soils and farmland in the world, and what that means is that we're able to produce, between the 5 million of us, enough food for about 40 million mouths worldwide. But let's put that into perspective. This year alone, the global population is estimated to increase by 80 million mouths. So New Zealand's entire annual food production can put out about enough food for 1/2 of 1 year's increase in the global population, in the existing global population. So recognising sustainable agricultural changes elsewhere in the world that are helping feed our planet's growing population while also also helping to reduce agricultural greenhouse gas emissions through both behavioural changes and innovation is important. Very, very, very important. And that brings me to these two awards. So the first award goes to, this is the 2018 Climate and Clean Air Award for Behavioural Change, and goes to RDRS Bangladesh for their work in northwestern Bangladesh to introduce climate-friendly, low-emissions rice cultivation practices. RDRS Bangladesh oversees a network of hundreds of farmers, water well owners, researchers and trainers in 8 districts in 17 locations to test and adopt an alternate wetting and drying method. This is a planting method that can halve methane emissions from rice paddies, as well as save precious water and money for farmers. The Bangladesh government plans to scale up alternative wetting and drying rice production to 20% of total cultivation by 2030 as part of its nationally determined contributions. The importance of the work that RDRS Bangladesh is carrying out cannot be overstated in its support for the transition to climate-smart agriculture. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Rashid Mamunur, the Agricultural Coordinator, RDRS Bangladesh, to receive the award on behalf of RDRS Bangladesh. And he's not here. He's on screen.
A great pleasure and privilege for me on behalf of RDRS Bangladesh to talk with all of you in our ceremony occasions. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Climate and Clean Air Coalitions for awarding the RDRS on his outstanding activities to changing the farming systems of the rice farming system in Bangladesh and also reduce the methane emissions. And first of all, I am thankful to IRI for their continuous support to RDRS for this Northwest Bangladesh in farmers, those who are farming for this rice. You know, in Bangladesh is a rice growing areas. In 75% lands are used for the rice farming, and peoples are grown the two types of rice, almond rice and Boro rice. Boro rice means the irrigated rice, and total rice is depend from the irrigations. And people are using the huge underground water that is not helpful for the environments. And we're trying to introduce an alternative technology for the rice farming. It's called the alternate wet and drying systems. It reduces the methane emissions more than 50%, also save the 30% irrigation facilities that we are implementing in the 17 locations of the northern areas. And we're mobilizing the water suppliers and also the water users. They form the groups, and we are mobilizing the capacity of these water users and extension peoples. And these areas, around 2 million hectares, are using for the rice cultivating. We're looking to much extend this technology across these areas, and our government's missions to also implement such technology around the 20% rice farmers, which are very, very in line with this government's missions and also the global commitment to reduce the carbon emissions and particularly the greenhouse gases emissions. So this is our visions. We are looking the supports, and thank to all of you and to giving this an opportunity to talk with of you.
So I also have the honour of presenting the 2018 Climate and Clean Air Award for Technology. And the award in that category goes to Simgas for working with farmers and herders in East Africa to turn livestock waste into clean household energy. So every year the smoke from traditional stoves causes indoor air pollution that leads to the premature deaths of approximately 4 million people. That's 4 million people every year who are dying from the poisonous smoke that is created by having to use raw animal dung, more delicately known as biomass, to fuel the fires that cook the food that's meant to sustain them and their families. East Africa has the world's highest percentage of people using biomass for cooking. Simgas is working to change this by providing biodigesters that turn that potentially lethal raw animal dung into biogas. Switching biomass into biogas can prevent emissions of black carbon and methane and therefore improve household health. This technology has the potential to grow a new energy sector in Africa and to reduce poverty. Unfortunately, Simgas is also unable to join us here today. No, we have got Simgas. Okay, we've got the other way around. Hello. All right. Grand.
If you could look over here. Oh, yeah, done. Go ahead and look at his. Okay, and then if you can turn this way. Okay, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I've told to keep it quite short, so I just wanted to say it's a real honor to be in a room full of such distinguished and inspiring people. I'm the kind of guy who goes to parties and talks about methane and bores everybody, but here, like, you guys really get it, and it's amazing to be amongst this sort of crowd. I just wanted to thank two groups of people really quickly. The first is the people who work with our company. We have an office in Kenya, in Tanzania, and in the Netherlands. They're incredible, hard-working people who believe in the same kind of ideas and mission that I think most of the people in this room do. They're working hard to learn new skills and to become like experts in a technology which they knew nothing about. You know, these are plumbers, people who are learning how to to install biodigesters in East Africa and Kenya. And now they're becoming experts and leaders in the field. The second group of people I'd like to thank is actually our customers. You know, these people typically are small-scale farmers who might have 2 or 3 cows, farm coffee perhaps and bananas, kind of have a small farm. And they're taking a risk on us when we ask them to buy one of these devices. You know, it's an expensive purchase. Like our challenge is to make it as cheap as possible and as efficient as possible. But even then, it is an expensive thing to buy. It's kind of $800 or something. And that's as much as buying a big expensive car for a family here, you know. It's a big deal. And these families have decided that it's worthwhile for them to invest in this technology, which keeps their kitchens clean. It keeps one of the main things that we do when we're selling the biodigesters is we hold 2 big pots up, you know, the cooking pots, one that's been cooked on an open fire and one that's been cooked on a biodigester. And one of them's black and the other one is silver. And we don't really have to say much more than that because people understand, especially the women, that the smoke that's sitting on the outside of this pot is actually going into their lungs and into the children's lungs and their eyes, and you know, it's a serious problem. Furthermore, they're not having to cut down trees in the local area or gather wood, which is obviously, you know, making their environment much healthier and much better for their future generations. So I just like to honor the people who've decided to take that risk and buy one of our products from us. And I hope we can help many more people to do the same thing. So thank you very much.
So now, finally, to our last 2 awards, and may I introduce my boss again, Executive Director for UN Environment. We are very happy that you are here with us. And for those that do not know this, the Climate and Clean Air Coalition is hosted by UN Environment and is based from many of the studies that were referred to earlier this morning, which was also coordinated by UN Environment and the World Meteorological Organization back in the day. So over to Erik Solheim.
Thank you so much, Helena, and good afternoon or good evening to all of you. This is a kind of event I really love to be part of because far too often environmentalists are setting out a negative message, that we are on the way to hell or the problems are so enormous. What we really need is this message, a can-do message. What can be done with the problems? And frankly, that's what the people of the world want to hear. That's an optimistic message we have heard from Pune in India, Santiago de Chile, 2 of the most amazing cities in the world, from China, from East Africa, from New Zealand, from basically every corner of the world, examples as to what can be done to resolve the problems. So thank you to all of you for that. I have a theory of change. Very briefly, if you want big change to happen, you need public opinion, you need citizens who say, we cannot live this way any longer, we need to change. You need political leaders with a vision, a direction, who frame the markets and drive the change. And you need businesses with the technology, the outreach, the ability to reach and to make things happen at scale. When these 3 come together, there's no limit to what we can change. Citizens, political leadership, and business. I'm asked to give the prize in the category for transformative political change. And it's a huge, I have to say, pleasure to give that to a very good friend. That's Minister Catherine McKenna of Canada. And according to the jury, she's and I couldn't agree more, she's a global leader on the environment. She's a leader in reducing short-lived climate pollutants, both domestically in Canada, but also providing Canadian leadership to the rest of the world. Canada has decreased its black carbon emission by 18% from 2013 level, and is projected to reduce them further by 30% to 2030. Methane emissions are also projected to decrease by 16% from 2012 to 2025. Don't forget all these numbers. Canada is on the right track. That's the message. Adding to this, as you all know, Montreal Protocol came in Canada, probably the most successful international agreement, not just for the environment, but of any sort, of any kind, delivered to 100%. Ozone layer is coming back, and we are now using the mechanisms of the Montreal Protocol also to defeat climate change. And Catherine had been a real proponent on this. She was absolutely central in the ratifying of the Kigali Amendment, which was basically to take the success story of protecting the ozone layer into the climate sphere. I just saw that Senegal was one of the last nations to ratify the Kigali Agreement. We are now, I think, at about 45 nations ratifying, and the number is increasing day by day, and Catherine has been at the forefront of this. Adding to all this, Canada and the United Kingdom also formed the Past Coal Alliance, which again is putting us on the right track to gradually phasing out coal and, of course, moving into renewable energies everywhere in the world. Catherine is still in Canada, but Ambassador Patricia Fuller will come and receive the award on her behalf. But understand that we will see Catherine on the screen.
Catherine, please.
That's not Catherine, that's for sure.
Hi to everyone gathered on Super Pollutant Day at the California Global Climate Action Summit. I'm Catherine McKenna, Canada's Minister of Environment and Climate Change. I want to thank the Climate and Clean Air Coalition partners for this award. It is such an honor. I'm sorry I couldn't join you today, but don't worry, I'll be in San Francisco later this week. En décembre prochain, nous célébrons le 3e anniversaire de la rencontre mondiale qui a mené à l'accord de Paris, une entente historique. Depuis, un nombre grandissant de pays, de gouvernements infranationaux, de villes et d'entreprises travaillent à réduire les émissions et à stimuler la transition vers une économie à faible émission de carbone. Canada's work to address short-lived climate Hi to everyone gathered on Super Pollutant Day at the California Global Climate Action Summit. I'm Catherine McKenna, Canada.
Okay, I think we heard the message from Catherine, so let's
We'll keep it on the website.
Yeah. She's a true leader, that's for sure. The other prize, which is in the category Enabling Action Award, it's called, is also going to the space of philanthropy. California is a center of global philanthropy. We have just gone around today in a few of the big companies here in California, like Facebook, Google, and Apple. And everywhere you see people working on philanthropy, and you also see big groups of philanthropy really bring together people for the message. So the role of philanthropy in the United States, but in the world is huge. A key driver of that is Hal Harvey. He's a Climate and Clean Air Award winner for individual achievement for the work he has done in transforming the way philanthropy engages in climate change works. His work has led to the creation of philanthropic foundations like Climate Works that have increased the scope and effect of non-profit focused on climate change. He has successfully built a network of grant makers and experts who share best practices in the areas most critical in stopping the rise in temperature. Hal Harvey is a rare and optimistic voice, it said. That's very good. We need more optimism on climate change, and works from the premise that the climate problem is in fact solvable, and that the move to zero carbon energy technologies can be accomplished. He has been able to prove this throughout much of his career. Hal Harvey continues to work on fast targeted actions that are bending the world's emissions curve and helping prevent dangerous climate change. So please, you can receive the award.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I'll be quick. I'm keenly aware that I'm the last speaker this evening, and there's probably cocktails in the lobby. I'm also keenly aware that I'm surrounded by my betters. I get to sit next to Dr. Mario Molina, whom I've known for almost 30 years and been inspired by him every single year, and many others here. This designation for me is enabling action. So I just want to take a couple words about action. I believe that with intense focus and arming oneself well with knowledge, one can make a big difference and make it quickly. We have these three super pollutants here, methane, HFCs, and black carbon. That's a pretty good focus area. It's absolutely crucial in making a difference to know what the solution is in some particulars. We heard about diesel engines and black carbon. We've heard about methane today from rice paddies, HFCs from refrigerants. It's equally crucial to understand which policy will drive the greatest change. This is not just about raising public awareness. That is clearly important. We also need to find the intervention point and hit it very hard. And in most cases, once you've done the math and analyzed the decision maker, it becomes quite clear how to focus one's efforts and one's attentions. There are usually one or two authorities responsible, for example, for controlling the pollution, putting diesel particulate filters, as Hui said, on trucks. It's a straightforward technology. It saves tens of thousands of lives, and it prevents black carbon. Once you've identified that decision maker, hit them with everything you've got, with economic analyses, with technical arguments, with health assessments, with the climate change data, with media attention, with deep activism, and don't let go until they do the right thing. What scares me about this Global Climate Action Forum is there are so many ideas, and they're all nice, and they're all good, but there are only a few venues where we can make a huge difference, and we owe it to ourselves to study them, know them well, master them, and win one by one by one. Then we can make a huge difference. I know the people in this room know this, indeed practice it every day, but I just want to reinforce that's what enabling action is ultimately all about. So many thanks.
So one final, very short intervention before we move to the cocktails outside, and this is to exactly bring what Hal Harvey just told us to the forefront with California. So over to you again, super pollutant hero.
Thank you. Very quick, before you get to enjoy the reception of the beautiful city of San Francisco, to all the award winners, welcome to the Climate and Clean Air Award Alumni Association. We're proud to have you all, and very impressive. As you know, the UN Climate and Clean Air Coalition, the Pisces Foundation and Climate Works Foundation worked very hard to get us an entire super pollutant day as we continue with the summit. But of course, we in California have to up the ante and had our California Senate officially vote to make the entire week that we are here Super Pollutant Reduction Week in California. And with unanimous bipartisan support. And these events, as you know, are not possible without our committed NGOs, and we appreciate their vision and effort for us today. We actually have with us the official resolution commemorating the entire week of Climate Summit to our NGOs and our folks who were involved with today. So if we can quickly bring up Eric Solheim, who is here from UN Environment, David Beckman from Pisces, Jason Anderson from Climate Works, and our very own super pollutant champion, Elena Molin Valdez, to receive the commendations from the government of California to officially welcome you all and officially nominate and say that California and this week are officially super pollutant reduction week for the state of California. Please welcome them and thank them again. Thank you.
Thank you for the survivors of this fantastic award ceremony, and the prize is out there. And I would like to thank my colleague Durwood Selke from IGSD, with whom we are working together with everybody else here. And he was supposed to ask some hard questions to the awardees. No time for that. Please use the cocktail to ask those questions, network, and talk to the awardees over a drink. Thank you so much to everybody.